Welcome back to Ghost Powered Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and here's another 10 movies to check out right now on Shudder. So for those of you not familiar with this channel, once a week I do a deep dive onto one of the popular streaming platforms and come up with 10 horror movies to recommend you guys check out. And this week I did a deep dive on Shudder and came up with 10 more recommendations that I definitely think you will enjoy. And with that, let's get to the list. Alright, so kicking off this list is a film called Caveat. So at the time of recording this, Caveat was just added onto Shudder just the other day, and so I checked it out, and I was pleasantly surprised on how good of a little film this is. Now, keep in mind, like I said, this is a little film. It's another one of those small indie horror films where everything takes place in one location, but it does get very creepy and has a lot of twists and turns. So for a small movie, it is decently produced, and I really did have a good time with this. It's very quirky, very demented, and very strange movie, but it is a really solid little thriller that I do highly recommend. So next we go to Hunted.
Only a handful entered the forest. Giant wolves ran wild. Yeah! The young girl's pure song had awoken the forest.
So this is a revenge horror subgenre type of film, but it takes a very fresh and unique spin on it, a new look at it. It's definitely different than any other revenge horror I've ever seen. There's a lot in this movie to enjoy. It is very action-packed. It does have a really strange, dark, wry sense of humor to it. It's just quirky and just weird enough that I definitely think it works. This is another small indie film, but it absolutely goes for it and goes fucking buck wild. It is an absolute blast that I do recommend. Next up, we go to Eve's Bayou.
Memory is a selection of images, some elusive, others printed indelibly on the brain.
And this is much more of a drama thriller. It's not even really quite horror, but it was a really solid movie. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to let you guys know about it regardless because it stars Samuel L. Jackson. It's an older movie, and yet it's beautifully done. Very, very powerful. There's a lot of imagery in this that I just love. For one, I love that whole Louisiana southern type of look to a film, and this has that really cool look. It just has this really haunting voodoo-esque type of feel. So just don't get it twisted and go into it thinking it's something like what I usually recommend, like a fun horror movie. It's not that. It's a much more quiet, darker, dramatic piece, but it's one that is done extremely well, really well acted. It's just a fantastic movie, and one that while it is on Shudder, I think you should definitely check it out. Next up is American Werewolf in London.
Did you hear that? What was it? A coyote. There aren't any coyotes in England.
And I don't need to say a lot about this. I mean, it's one of the greatest horror movies ever made. It's definitely one of the greatest werewolf movies ever made. And most people say it has the greatest werewolf transformation scene of anything ever done, especially for practical effects. But if you've never seen American Werewolf in London, you need to watch that now. But even if you have, it's great to rewatch regularly because it is just that level of classic. It's up there with The Thing and Psycho and just those legendary classic horror movies, in my opinion. I just think it's amazing. But since it's on Shudder right now, I definitely wanted to let you guys know, hey, it's on Shudder. And while it's on Shudder, check it out. Run! Next up is a fantastic sci-fi film called Time Lapse.
Hey, Mr. Bizarides, are you home?
These are shots of our living room. What is this thing?
I think it's a camera.
No way. Mr. B invented a camera that takes pictures of the future.
This is one of my favorites on this list. This is a movie that I have really never heard of until I discovered it, and I love this movie. It is dramatic, it is sci-fi, it's not a true blue horror, but it definitely has a lot of horrific moments. No matter what though, it's a fun, twisted kind of movie that fucks with your head, has a lot of just cool, unique time travel elements.
This is just the start. Just smile and say goodbye to your day jobs, guys.
Pretty much, if I hear time travel or werewolves, I'm there, but it is well executed in every way. The acting, directing, it looks great. It's not a big movie, it's a small movie, but it's done really, really well, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a twisted, psychological, just fun sci-fi horror movie that I definitely think you should check out.
We're all friends, and we just need to trust that it's gonna be okay.
Next up is Tourist Trap.
Every year, hundreds of young people travel the country and disappear. God help those who get caught in the tourist trap.
And this is another one of those classics, okay? The OG level 80s horror movies. And it's not one that I figure nobody knows about. This is not a deep dive. I think most horror fans are aware of this movie, but I've always felt that it just doesn't get enough credit. And so whenever I can throw movies like this on these lists, just to kind of remind everyone, hey, if you haven't watched me in a while, you should check it out. And for the rare people that haven't, for whatever reason, seen it, it gives them a chance, like a reminder to be like, oh yeah, I forgot. I still haven't checked that out.
Tourist trap, where beautiful young people looking for excitement are trapped.
It's just a really fun movie and one that has just always been one of my favorites. Next, we go to American Mary.
What's this?
It's my resume.
No, you don't need it to work here, but it is nice to find out some of your dirty secrets. Want to be a doctor?
Surgeon.
Follow me.
What do I have to do?
Yeah, we preferred if Rat was not to die tonight.
I think a lot of people miss the fact that there's kind of humor to this movie. I think it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek. It's not quite playing it straight. And I think some people kind of miss that on this, and I think that's part of why it gets hate. At least I've heard quite a few people talk shit about this movie. But this is a great movie that I have always felt is underrated. It's gory and gruesome and deals with some really fucked up body modification, creepy elements.
You can put the bed down, Dr. Mason. I'm just a desperate woman looking for help.
What exactly does she want me to do?
But it's just a really cool movie that is just never talked about, and I don't know why. It stars Catherine Isabel, who I absolutely love, and she is just fucking smoking hot in this movie, seriously. It has a lot of weird bondage stuff and body modification stuff and taboo sexual things, definitely a lot of boobs in it. It is one of those movies that is not going to be for everyone, but if that sounds like your cup of tea and you've never checked it out, definitely check it out, because American Mary is a really fucking cool movie.
Do you think I'm crazy?
Next up is Dead and Buried.
From the creators of Alien, terror brought down to Earth. Fear so intense, it will stay with you to the grave and beyond.
And I had never heard or seen this movie until recently when I was watching The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, which is on every Friday, and I watch it religiously. But anyway, so I checked this movie out and I really enjoyed this, and I was just shocked that there was an 80s horror movie that was this good and twisted and strange and unique that I hadn't seen.
Potter's Bluff, a nice place to visit, but you wouldn't want to die there.
I really love the atmosphere and overall look of this film. It reminded me in a lot of ways of The Fog, you know, John Carpenter's The Fog. just has that small town on the ocean, weird, creepy vibe about it. So if you enjoy 80s movies and if you enjoy strange, weird, unique, twisted stories, this is really one that you should definitely check out.
The movie you'll want to see, if you dare to look.
Bury me.
Dead and Buried.
Next, we go to Incident in a Ghostland.
Patrick had a vague feeling something was about to happen. Something in the breeze of twilight had whispered, "It's going to happen tonight."
This is a really cool movie. It, in a lot of ways, is kind of a slasher feeling for at least some of it, but then it also has these weird psychological, twisted, not sure what's reality, not sure what's going on, and just kind of back and forth throughout the movie where you're never quite sure what's going on, but at the end it finally snaps into focus and you realize, and you're like, oh, that was a cool movie. This is one of those kind of situations, and I really enjoyed this film. I think this is a really great small slasher type of horror movie that not enough people talk about, and I definitely recommend it. All right, last up on this list is PG Psycho Goreman.
Many moons ago, a nameless evil was imprisoned in a place far beyond reach.
Hurry up!
If he were ever to be released, it would spell certain doom for all existence.
All right, so this movie is the talk of the horror world over the last few months, and rightfully so. I actually was lucky enough to see it at the drive-ins when it was first dropped, and I wish I could have seen it in theaters, and I'm really hoping that at some point in the near future, some theater near me will play it so I can go and see it on the big screen. That's how much I love this movie.
You will suffer an eternity for this.
This movie, I did a whole review on, so if you want to hear me talk more about it, then it's up here somewhere, my review. But it's just such an absolute fucking blast. Like, this is so much fun. Everybody was talking about Willy's Wonderland, and that was cool. It was all right. It was fun. But if you want to see a fun horror movie, this is as fun as it gets. It's like this crazy horror psycho version of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The costumes are fantastic, the look, the gore, it's weird, it's unique. It's just such a fun movie, and if you have yet to check it out, you need to get on it because I think most horror fans are gonna enjoy this. It's just a lot of fun.
There's a new god in town, and his name? Psycho Goreman.
Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Please leave your comments down below. I love recommendations from you guys and just love hearing from you in general. And if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel and when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this at least 2 times every week. And I also want to give a huge thank you to my patrons because your support means so much to me. And if you would like to find out more about becoming a patron, the link is down in the description. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember guys, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next time.